Let's go to the fan hotline where we have Anthony Castrovince from MLB.com as well as MLB Network, where Mitch has written, he's already in Atlanta for All-Star Week. I'm going, yeah, the home run derby's tonight, bud. Anthony Castrovince joins us right now. Hello, Anthony.
I've been down here. I'm basically a lifer when it comes to the 2025 All-Star festivities. So yeah, we're locked and ready for tonight.
Hey, can I ask you a weird question? How's that whole neighborhood around Truist Park and everything? We're trying to do the same thing up here. How's that look?
Yeah. It's like everywhere you go, you see the same thing. I mean, it's great. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's a great pregame atmosphere and everything. But, you got your yard house. You got your, like the hip place where you go bowling. There's always one of those. There's some shops. And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'm the target audience, but it's perfectly fine. It's going to really liven up Brook Park. Let me tell you that.
Anthony Castrovince joining us. Follow him on Twitter, @Castrovince on Twitter. He is on the fan hotline. So Guardians, they finish up the first half of the season strong after a 10-game losing streak, and they were like something like 9-21 over their last 30 before they started winning again. Is this a team that can still make a run towards a wild card, or should they think about liquidating some of these assets for the future?
Maybe both, the Tigers were sellers at last year's deadline, and look what happened to them in the last 2 months. They played their young guys and took off. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen to the Guardians because the math is definitely against them right now. But the schedule's pretty light coming out of the break, so that could work in their favor. But it's just been it's been a frustrating season doesn't begin to cover it. It's kind of been worst case scenario, and all the things last year we were saying, how are they doing this? Now we're like going the other way. We're like, how has it gotten this bad? So the truth is probably somewhere in the middle between those two teams. But if they can take advantage of this light schedule prior to the trade deadline, that could impact their decision making. But if not, they could really be a team that takes advantage of what is clearly a seller's market.
Did you see anything different in this team over the last two series? Obviously, it's the White Sox, and Houston did have some players out, but did in any way, shape, or form, did you say, wow, that's actually a team more capable than I previously thought?
Well, it all just comes down to how much life they show offensively. They put 6 runs on Hunter Brown, who's a Cy Young candidate. That was great to see. They had such a miserable month of June that you forgot what it looks like when they score runs, so that came to life again. But at the end of the day, they have so many lineup holes, and they are so dependent on Steven Kwan and Jose Ramirez. And after that, it's just huge question marks all over the place. And that's why when you think ahead to the second half, you would hope and think that they free up some opportunities for their younger guys in the system. By that, I mean, of course, Chase DeLauder and maybe CJ Kapis, but, doing that might require doing something with Carlos Santana, making some uncomfortable decisions in the outfield as well. So we'll see. But no, they needed something in that moment. And that Houston series was, good for the soul for sure.
Is Carlos Santana on his way out by the end of the month?
I don't know what the market would be for him in trade. I just, just logically, guy's almost 40 years old. He's got a sub 700 OPS, and you got to. If it's a lost season, if it's a season where they're just not going to contend anyway, you have to take advantage of at bats and opportunities at the major league level. You have to find those for the guys in your system who are knocking on the door. So I don't know what that means for Carlos Santana, if it would be more of a reduced role or if it would be a trade. But I would hope for his sake, if it is going to be going down that road, then I would hope that he gets to go to a place where his veteran presence is valued and he can help the team down the stretch that's in contention. But as we said, maybe this team gets back in contention. It's hard to envision him going forward as an everyday player just because of his age and the production offensively.
Anthony Castrovince joining us right now, getting ready for the All-Star festivities. So we had an All-Star closer a year ago that was the best closer in baseball so far this year. Obviously has not matched what it was last year, but he still had his moments. They do have him under team control. So how do you see this situation playing out?
Yeah, they're definitely getting people are showing interest in him, as you would expect. The bullpen environment in Major League Baseball this year is rough. There's a lot of teams going to be looking for help in that area at the deadline, a lot of very good teams. And, his stuff still plays up. I know the numbers, particularly because of what happened in the first month, the numbers aren't what they were last year, but he's still got elite stuff. And it's interesting because this is the kind of guy the Guardians trade, in that, he's getting more expensive for them relative to the rest. I want to say it's like $6 or $7 million next year. And then he's got the options for, I believe, $10 million a piece, the 2 years after that. For the Guardians, that's a significant percentage of your payroll, unfortunately. For bigger market teams, not so much. So this is sometimes a moment where they've thinking like Andres Jimenez, right? Where, where the contract starts to become untenable for them. I'm not saying Clase is as, with Jimenez, it was a very much sub-average bat, started to take up a larger percentage of payroll. Clase is a key guy in this club, but this is often a moment where, as an organization, they explore a guy's trade value. So I wouldn't be shocked if a deal came down. You don't necessarily expect it or predict it, but it wouldn't be shocking, I don't think, for anybody. And there's definitely interest in him out there.
One I'd be really surprised with, Anthony Castrovince joining us on the show. I'm reading about Cade Smith and possibilities with a trade with him, and I'm thinking, why? Is that other teams trying to speak this thing maybe into existence or grease the rail or something?
I would think so, because again, that's the guy they build around. They build around the guys who are pre-arbitration, and no, I mean that wouldn't make a tremendous amount of sense to me.
Anthony Castrovince with us on the show. So for Stephen Vogt, I mean, this has been his first real tough stretch. I know he had lost 7 in a row last year, but that was a real tough stretch of a month. We're again 9-21, I think, over their 30 up until Monday when they started last Monday when they started winning again. For him, what do you think were the challenges for him of leading this team where they've taken away payroll from an ALCS team? They're still kind of handcuffed by what their payroll is. And, a lot of people are beating down the door for some of these pups to come up from Columbus.
Yeah, I mean, this is the reality of the job that he didn't have to face last year, to his credit. I mean, that team exceeded expectations from day one. And you mentioned, as you said, there was one long losing streak, but there was always a sense last year that, man, they are getting the absolute most out of his roster. He's crushing it with the bullpen moves. It was fun to watch. This year has not been as fun to watch. So this is where, the other side of the coin, and he gets tested for the first time as a manager to go through moments like this. And you've seen tremendous consistency from him in terms of how he relates to players, how he relates to the media, et cetera. Sometimes you want to bang your head against the wall as a media member because he keeps repeating, like, this is not who we are. And you can only say that so many times before it's like, well, maybe this is who you are. But no, I mean, this is why he got the job, is just that demeanor, that steadiness, the ability to work well with the front office. All those things have all, been steady throughout a very rocky first half of 2025.
Jacob Mizorowski ends up making the All-Star team late. He was just appointed in only 25 innings. I know that there's some old-time baseball fans who are very upset by that. I think in any sport there would be some older fans who are upset by that. Do you think it's a good thing, or do you question this move here with him being on the All-Star team?
I think it's a great thing. I've advocated for a while, and this is maybe not the way to do it, but this should be a spectacle, and maybe each roster just needs a spot for a guy who's just maybe a young guy or whatever, just somebody who's just flat out like has the attention of fans, as this kid, the Miz, does right now. And he just ran into a situation where, I mean, you need people to pitch in the game. I know that when he was named, people were throwing out, other guys who had better, more of a track record this season and all that. But at the end of the day, like, people are going to be more excited to see this kid than they are, Christopher Sanchez or Ranger Suarez, and there was an attempt by the league to offer a spot to those guys, but various people kind of turned it down because they're pitching over the weekend leading up to it, and they didn't want to pitch an inning in the All-Star game. And the whole point of being a replacement is you're available to pitch in the game or play in the game. That's the whole point. That's why we replaced the originally named All-Stars, is to have people who can, take those innings or at bats. So the Miz was willing to do that, and lo and behold, here we are. So I think this is a easier sell for the All-Star game. Hey, look at this kid, man. He's only made 5 starts in the big leagues, but he's electric. He's getting the attention of all of his peers. He's a great story. So let's showcase that.
Robot umps, your thoughts?
Yeah, and it's a misnomer because what you're going to see at the All-Star game tomorrow night, and in all likelihood next season, is not quote unquote robot umps, because it's still, the umpire is still calling every ball and strike in every game. It's just that it's the challenge system where you have, for the game tomorrow night, and I would assume this would appear to be where they're leaning going forward, is you have 2 challenges per team. Only the pitcher, the hitter, or the catcher can ask for a challenge, and it's all very fast. It's like the Hawkeye thing in tennis, is the ball in or out? It works very quickly. It adds kind of a fun strategic angle to the game of, saving your challenges versus using your challenges. And, I've seen it many times now in minor league baseball, and they've used it in some, futures game and spring training this year. And it's so streamlined that you could very easily miss it even happening. And so it's just about getting like the biggest calls, making sure the biggest calls are right, should there be any controversy, on the part of the players. So it's a net positive. And yeah, so robot umps are tremendously unpopular within baseball, because they did experiment with that, with full robot umps, and the umpire just back there, with the quote unquote robot call in his earpiece. And they slows the game down. There's more walks. People hated it. And it didn't really have the traditional way games are called.
Well, what do you mean by it slowed the game down? Is it because it had a very rigid?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, can't they just change that?
Well, they can, yeah. But, there's just kind of that art to umpiring, right? Where it's a 10-1 game, and they kind of move the game along,
Mm-hmm.
A veteran guy's kind of hitting his spots. You might give him a little bit off the black. Now that's changed a little bit too, just because the way umpires are graded, but it's still in there. I mean, there's still a human element to umpiring, and it's it's things that people within the game accept. And yeah, like I said, I mean, they did it for a while. They tried full robot umps for quite a while, and it didn't pass the smell test. So the challenge system has been very popular, and it worked well in spring training. Doesn't add much time to the game. It's on average 4 pitches a game, that are impacted by it, and they are conceivably the biggest pitches. And it actually gives you a pretty good appreciation for the umpires doing a pretty good job, because those 4 pitches a night that were the quote unquote maybe most controversial pitches, they were still getting them right about half the time. The challenge was was not upheld. So I love it, man. I think it's kind of fun. I love the strategic angle of it, and I think fans are going to like it too.
Can I put you in a bad spot?
Sure.
What can you tell us?
Being in a bad spot.
What can you tell us about Laviolette, if anything?
Just that he goes against the grain of what they've targeted, generally speaking, in recent drafts. For one, he's 6'6". They've been known to take a lot of little guys, and he's got big power and also big risk. Big swing and miss. He did have the hand injury and surgery at the end of the year, but that doesn't seem to be a big concern. But the swing and miss is the bigger concern. And it's nice to see them kind of go a different direction. Obviously, their position player development has been very, inconsistent, and maybe too consistent in some ways. Where it's hard to hit on a Stephen Kwan. I mean, that's great. That's great. But they've tried to go that mold in general with smaller, undervalued guys or bat to ball skills, and the game is trending that way, so it makes sense. But you got to have some pop. You got to have guys who can hit the ball over the fence, and they drafted a few last night. So that is clearly a strategy of theirs for this particular draft, where they had quantity in picks, but their first pick was at number 27 overall as a result of their success last season, and so you could see them taking some calculated gambles with those picks and going for some pop.
You're saying the league is trending back towards complete hitters, not just boppers?
Absolutely. I mean, we're going to have more hits. Right now, we have more hits than strikeouts for the first time since 2017. This is what Major League Baseball engineered. And I would say it's the right thing to engineer. I mean, you can compare this year's numbers in terms of time of game, hits per game, runs per game, et cetera. It's 1985. It's like it mirrors 1985. So that is just a brand of baseball that's just more fun to watch. We still have the home run hitters. We have a catcher with 38 home runs at the break. There's still a lot of that going on, but you have to have athleticism in your lineup, some speed in your lineup, and bat to ball skills to take full advantage of this environment with the rules.
Find him on Twitter at Castrovince. Anthony, thank you very much for the time. All the best. Enjoy this evening and the week.
Thanks, guys. Good to hear from you.
Anthony Castrovince on the Fan Hotline.